Everyone, welcome back again to Spiritual Growth Tarot and Astrology. I'm Denise, and this is your astrology reading for the week. And so this week we're going from October 30th to November 5th, and the moon's going to be going through Capricorn to Aries, but we also have Mars retrograde happening on the 30th, and we're in the middle of two eclipses. And the full moon eclipse on the 7th is, of course, or on the 8th, I'm sorry, voting day. So anyway, it's like we need to hold on to our hats. Stay grounded. Anyway, maybe I should just speak for myself when I say that. You guys are probably doing great. I'm just like, whoa, so much going on. So anyway, let me get this reading or these charts going for you, and I hope you're doing really well. Always sending you big hugs. Okay, hold on. Okay, so this is our Mars retrograde chart, and I've gone ahead and highlighted in the themes that are going to be lasting all week, because my program drops this one leg off just because we're out of the degrees by a minute with the square to Saturn and the nodes. And then the opposition to the south node with Uranus is really important. So I use a 5 to 10 degree orb with those strong, with a strong tension field, such as a square or a, well, actually with pretty much all the aspects, except when it comes to our inconjuncts here with the greens, green lines. These are 150 degree orbs. They require adjustment at one end or the other between the planets. And I always go with the stronger, the one that we're going to adjust to would be the slower moving planet. In this case, it's Pluto. So let me talk about this backdrop first, because it's lasting all week and beyond. So you can see up here, Mars goes retrograde Sunday the 30th, early in the morning, Pacific time, about 9:30 a.m. Eastern, and it stays retrograde until January 12th, but it won't get out of the retro shadow, retro shade until March 15th. So Mars is going to just be sitting here for months, spinning the information, spinning news, spinning lies, because it's square. It is square Neptune. So this is a backdrop here. I probably should have, here, hold on, I'll color this in. Because these two planets, well, especially Neptune, is not moving much. But the, right here with Jupiter, that has just gone retrograde, it is now giving lots of energy. There's more oomph here to Neptune. So the important thing here is Pluto is up here, no longer retrograde. So there's no more review right now for quite some time. In fact, yeah, it has to get to 28 degrees Capricorn. It said 26. It has to get to 28 before it's out of the retro shade, but that won't happen until the end of January next year. So we're sitting in this stew with Pluto and Capricorn. And Pluto, remember, Pluto purges. It brings things up to, up to the light so that they can be healed. It helps us to eliminate what is not working well in our lives. It helps us to transform and bring in especially our power. Now, sometimes it can be like a volcano erupting, and that can be literally too with, weather patterns, because we do have Uranus and Taurus. Taurus is an earth sign. So, we're talking all types of natural issues, natural weather issues. We really do have to be careful about that. Be prepared best we can, and then just kind of let go, because there's not much we can do about it now. Enough people, enough big corporations, we weren't able to control them with climate change, and it's happening. It's just one of those very, very sad situations that I don't know what to do about. Except, I don't buy plastic things anymore, and as much, unless I just have to. Some things you can't get away from, but like I have switched to dryer sheets, not dryer sheets. I never use that crap. Washing machine sheets, the detergent instead of in any type of a container, or powder that's heavy and it takes more money to ship. I use the dryer sheets now. And it helps. I think it helps quite a bit because, we're all doing laundry all the time, right? But yeah, that's another whole story. So backdrop here, for all week long, Pluto is sitting there, and Pluto will win, is the thing. The slower moving planet will win. Pluto takes 243 to 248 years usually to get all the way around the planet, or around the zodiac. And it usually stays about 11 to 25 years, between signs. Sometimes because it's not a, regular orbit, it's elliptical. So some years it'll stay in one sign for about 11 or 12 years. Others it'll be like, 23, 24, 25 years. But anyway, so we're dealing with rebirth. We're dealing with power issues. We're dealing with people who try to control. We're dealing with psychological issues sometimes. Pluto's great for, like, if you have a nice aspect of strong Pluto, or you've worked really hard to heal your Pluto, issues, you would make a very good psychotherapist or any other type of therapist, because it deals with all depth, psychology. So, yeah, so there's so much to be said for Pluto. Now, with the inconjunct, remember that quincunx inconjunct 150-degree aspect always means that there's a need for an adjustment, and the adjustment's going to have to come from one end or the other. Now, because Mars usually moves really quickly, usually it only takes about a month and a half to get through one sign, but it's sitting here until March, and it's been sitting here since, I think, September, right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was September, yeah. So we're talking like 5-6, months in there. In Gemini, Mars moves energy. Mars retrograde in Gemini is great. Well, retrograde or direct, doesn't matter, but Mars in Gemini is really good for learning. It's really good for communication, but not if it's just fired off without thinking. Not if it's not grounded in the heart space or love. Or just thinking out loud. We have to be careful. So with this aspect here happening all week and beyond, because again, like I said, Mars is, we're talking with a quincunx inconjunct aspect, we're talking a 2-degree orb. You can see that Mars is at 25 degrees, Pluto's at 26. It'll go back a little bit, but I don't think it's going to go back too far. I think it's going to, eventually it'll make it all the way back to 8 degrees. So then we won't be in this inconjunct anymore. So let's use the energy and consciousness of this inconjunct, this adjustment that's going to be, that is meant to help us to make an adjustment or some adjustments in our lives to come into our power. Because most of all, Capricorn is that quality of self-responsibility, working hard, our sense of duty, controlling our own lives best we can. It's known for working hard. Now, where we can get in trouble or into trouble is if we are allowing a narcissistic or psychopathic, same thing, right? But psychopathic is way worse. If we're allowing people like that to control our lives. And if that's the case, like, let's say you are involved in a cult type of a person is involved in a cult type of a situation and they don't know it. Well, then that brings us into Mars squaring Neptune and Jupiter. And so they are going to have those issues to work through. This also brings in the element of addictions. Now, and this could be, it could even be the addiction to look at your phone or your device constantly to see what's going on in the news, because you feel like there's something, and sometimes it's just direct guidance. I'll get that where it's like, keeping to myself and quiet time while I'm doing things around the house because I don't want the noise. And then I'll get guidance to, turn on the news. And then sure enough, something did happen. But if we're going around, if we're moving through our lives, like with, our cell phones, it's like an extension of our, it's just like glued to our hand constantly. We're just going to be feeding that spin. And that's not going to help us to heal, which is what Jupiter in Pisces is trying to help us do. And it's also trying to help us. This aspect, this conjunction here, is really, really good for our spiritual path, for working within any, artistic, intuitive, however you. It's good for anybody who does their own divination work. It's good for anyone who's doing their shadow work. It's good for anyone who's working to heal the past. And that's the stubbornness that we need to hold on to with Jupiter and Jupiter and Neptune in this sesquisquare, basically a square and a half, up to the south node. And, so the south node's a past. In Scorpio, remember, Scorpio is ruled by Pluto. So everything I said about Pluto, put it here and think the past. So what do I need to transform to the past, from the past, in order to break free and be on my spiritual path and devote myself to my own guidance, listening to my own higher self? Am I meditating every day? Am I paying attention to my dreams? Now, a lot of times, dream time is just helping you clear out the past. Or it's helping you to become aware of something that's, that type of a constant, like you're tracking a pattern because it's a constant, it just keeps bubbling up. So, but be careful though, because, spiritual work aside, I'm always about safety first. You guys probably know me by now. And I'm always looking for themes and tracking patterns because that's just who I am. We have Jupiter here in this, in conjunct as well to Mercury. And because of the square to Mars, like with that, and the trine here brings in that flow. What I'm concerned about, what I was saying to be careful about, is with Mars retrograde, is to be very, very diligent about your self-care, because anything that has been bugging you, anyone you've been arguing with, it's not going to get better until you do your own inner work. So, because we're talking war-like words here with Mars and Gemini. And with the trine to Mercury and Scorpio, we can use that energy. And we have, remember, we're in between these two eclipses. Venus is involved. Venus rules relationships. And with Mercury and the Sun, and they're all moving towards the south node, there's more and more energy. We're building up to that full moon lunar eclipse when these are all tight together. This stellium of scorpionic energy, which is really, really beautiful for figuring out how to reinvent yourself, especially with Uranus at the other end of it. Holding space. Remember, the slower planet will hold space for the rest of the work with the personal planets. So, yeah, and then we've got this little semi-square tension here where there's going to need, some action's going to need to be taken for us to move forward in our freedom. So I feel that there's a theme here about freeing ourselves freeing ourselves up from the past, but also digging our heels in the places where we know that we're good at something, or we are establishing something. We are breaking through to the freedom, but we're also digging our heels in and committing. Scorpio doesn't like to not commit. Scorpio doesn't flounder around. Scorpio doesn't like to, it doesn't like to be betrayed most of all. So we're looking for relationships that we can trust and then develop and then commit to. It's rare for a Scorpionic or person with a lot of Scorpio or a strong, healthy Scorpio to not be in relationships that are trustworthy. I think it's really rare. If they are, they're just working their way through all of those issues. So politically, we can expect secrets to come out and be revealed. We can expect the news cycle to be full of lies, when we're talking about which news channels I'm talking about that don't tell the truth, and which online entities, and which, you guys know who I'm talking about. So, but for us personally, the best way I think to use this energy is to work on your integrity, being in your own authority, because that is the hallmark. That is the only reason that we're all going through Pluto and Capricorn, and have been since 2008, because we're purging any type of narcissism that has been in our lives, and any type of disrespect that has come through in our lives. And we are learning to respect ourselves and not overlook who we truly are. And we're learning to be self-responsible for the relationships, the people that we allow into our lives and the people that we spend our time with. And to remember that energy and consciousness are precious. So if we're floundering around and just wasting our time with anybody just to not be on our own, I guess, or avoid. Now I'm going to speak to Chiron in conjunct the South Node. If we're going to be in relationships where we're with people just because we don't want to be alone, because we're trying to heal our fear of abandonment, bottom line is don't abandon yourself, and then things should work out. But for some of us, or some people, will be going through learning to love ourselves, not abandon ourselves, but also to let go of being impulsively, question it when things come up. It's like, do we have a demand coming out of ourselves onto someone else that needs to be let go of and transformed? We're talking like neediness, clinginess. If you've ever been or you are in a relationship like that, you might find yourself needing, in any relationship, you might find yourself needing space. And especially more so nowadays, because we are clearing so much karma from so many lifetimes who knows how far back, right? So this is the theme, right? And then especially today, I'll talk about this, but then I also want to make sure I get into these trines right here and the aspect of the architect. But especially today with the moon in Capricorn, and remember that as the planets are moving together, it's, approaching energy, it's stronger than after it conjuncts and crosses over. So for the next couple of days, so for today and the next, day or so, the moon. So, moon, we come to the moon, think about emotions, feelings, family, the things we connect with, what helps us feel connected, what we need, how we digest our food, right? How we respond to things, and all of our intuitive faculties, all of our sensitivities. And in Capricorn, of course, moving towards Pluto, things are going to heat up and become more intense. And that is absolutely the same thing going on here with Mars trining to Mercury, which is why, I was saying before, be careful about getting into fights that are just not necessary. There's no reason to do that. But then also we might be reassessing because Mars always wants to help us go in a certain direction. It's pushing us a little bit. It moves energy. Remember, Mars is movement. So what are we moving towards? Towards Mercury and Scorpio, digging in to get to the truth. And Mercury, it's perfect to have, actually, I think it's perfect to have Mars stationing retrograde right before an election, because it helps us to reassess our, what we're going towards. And with Uranus and Taurus on the North Node, we have all been for years in this process of reassessing our values. Because remember, the nodes go backwards, and the nodes were here and catching up to Uranus, and then Uranus decided to retrograde, needed to retrograde to do its thing, and then they've been partying down for quite some time together, and they will. So anyway, let's see what else. Oh yeah, I wanted to talk about the trine. So lots of energy, lots of movement here, lots of reassessing situations, reassessing what someone has said, and thinking, did my bullshit meter go off again? Did they just say this again? How much energy do I have to deal with this again, if that's it? Or am I just working, not just, but am I working towards, these are questions, we can always ask ourselves, am I working towards going in the direction that will help me to, maybe we've had a project going on for quite some time, and now we're deciding to move in that direction because the energy is more clear this way. And then with the trine up to Saturn, there's the ability, and Saturn's no longer retrograde, although it won't be out of its shadow until the end of January next year. But there's that stability that's coming, like breaking free. We're in this tension field of needing to break free from the past, and the energy is now, fully open and flowing to just think outside the box, or not just think outside the box. It's huge, right? This is absolutely huge, and especially now with being in between the eclipses, the energy is all about. As we have to remember that Pluto rules Scorpio, and so the eclipse here on October 25th that happened is holding space for everything that's going to be over here when this moon catches up over here, when the full moon comes over here on November 8th, right? So the issues are, it's everything, Pluto and Venus is here involved, and will be in both eclipses. So Venus is very, very, very involved over these next 2 weeks. And what does Venus do? She compares. She makes value assessments. And she's always thinking in terms of safety and self-preservation, right? Because just think of putting the Empress tarot card over here. Or actually over here, because here's where Taurus is, and then over here we put the Judgment card, right? And then we're thinking, wait, what? Here, let me do it real quick, actually. Let me grab my... Here. So here's Uranus. I think I did this for the... I'm positive I did, for the eclipse video. So that there's a whole separate video on that, so I won't spend too much time, but just to hold space for, here we go. Women, actually, just think right here, Uranus and Taurus, putting these two together, okay? And then, but remember, she rules Venus, and Venus is up here in Scorpio, and Scorpio, here's the scorpionic energy. Hold on. Right here with the Judgment card. Right? And that's, there's Pluto involved there, and then Pluto's here, but because Pluto's in Capricorn, that's like Saturn, and then Saturn's in Aquarius, so we have the world, because Saturn rules Capricorn and Aquarius as well, or I'm sorry, because it used to be a co-ruler, but I go with Uranus. I go with Uranus for Aquarius. I was just thinking of something else. Oh, I know this other dude I need. Well, partly this has to do with the transformational process, right? Because there we go with Scorpio. And here's the other one. This is what we're up against. So we are making value assessments. We are judging, and because we want to be free, but we want to be safe. And you can't really be free unless you're self-responsible, and you can't really be free unless you're safe. So we're we're honoring our inner call, and we are transforming the past. The ghosts of the past are coming up. On one level, we could say, oh, we're seeing the dirty politicians, we're seeing the dirty, people in the governments world over. It's not just here, it's everywhere. And worse in some places, right? Look what's going on with Iran. What they've done to, they're fighting in the streets now. I mean, I don't know if they're fighting in the streets, they're protesting because of the woman who was stoned, killed. I mean, I can't even go there. It's just so painful. So, but anyway, this is what's on the table. We're talking women's rights, reproductive rights, self-preservation, and we are thinking in these polarities here. And the polarities create this need for big change within our government and to not be controlled that way. Right? I mean, but then again, we do need some government because we absolutely need safety and law and order. We don't, imagine not having laws that we abide by. That's why Saturn's up here in Aquarius, is this need to create new laws so that we are safer in the future. I mean, it's a fascinating read to get inside of, do your research online and get inside of why our Constitution was even created. And why do we have these three co-equal branches of government? Right? But we need amendments and we need the laws enforced. There are some laws that are just not enforced because we were, by the honor system. Well, we're seeing that there isn't much honor. So that's the backdrop, and that's, goes beyond this week. Now for today, you can see that we have this nice sextile here and then two trines here. So the sextile is actually coming from the south node here, so the past, and it's connecting with the moon this morning in very, responsible, hardworking Capricorn, and then two trines, a double trine to the node in Uranus. And again, remember, Uranus is going to win because it's the stronger planet, but here's an opportunity here. With the moon at the fulcrum point, are you working towards? That's what I was saying. Like last week, this is Sunday, and it didn't look to me like Saturday there was going to be much of a break. It looked like a work day. This looks like a work day too. So that's why I want to reinforce the need for self-care, to get your downtime. If you're not getting enough sleep at night, make sure you get your naps in. Even if it's just 10 minutes or 5 minutes, or just to lay down, even if you don't go to sleep, just to give yourself some space with silence. So you can just be with yourself, be with your life and your being. So, yeah, I think that's about it for this, for the overview of the week. The other aspects are going to move around. So let's go ahead and go to Monday. And you can see now the moon has crossed over the other side of Pluto. And now I'm thinking it'll be a little less intense. And I ran this chart for 4 a.m. in the morning because it brought in the orbs in a tighter degree to where we could see what's really important. One of the things that was really important leading up here was what I started out talking about with Pluto in the quincunx to Mars, and the moon was moving towards it to bring us more in touch with what we really want, what we are willing to do to get it. Right? If we want that freedom, and we want our lives to be a certain way, we have to work for it. Right? So, with the moon on the other side of Pluto, I think a lot of people are going to be breathing a sigh of relief because they have done their early voting. They're coming out. They've been coming out in record numbers already. So that's good. Now that doesn't mean that they'll get counted. Often nothing gets, in a lot of states, nothing gets counted until like 8 o'clock that night on November 8th or whatever voting day is, that Tuesday. So just to remember that. You can't get all excited. But if we go with the record turnouts, yeah, that should get us excited. So you can see all the aspects are the same, with just the knowing that the moon has really given Pluto some more oomph to get in touch. I feel like this is like family power here. I feel like this is, here, let me pop out the tarot card. Should just left this deck over here. The World. And I feel like, here we go. This one. I feel like, even though it's Mercury in Virgo, but I feel like this card relates to the moon conjunct Pluto there. Virgo's another air sign, but I feel like this brings in the family power, family wealth, family thinking ahead, right? Like, even though, let's pretend that Grandpa, let's pretend Grandpa doesn't believe in abortion, but by the time he has grandchildren, and let's pretend they're all girls. And now these bad guys are trying to bring in laws that say if my granddaughter gets raped, she has to, and she's 10, and she's pregnant, she has to have the baby. And then we have to bring that asshole into our family because, he has like some kind of parental rights. Can you imagine? Right? So if he's a smart grandpa, he'll be thinking in those terms. And then suddenly, we're all voting for the same issue, regardless of your political affiliation in the past. And I've always felt that the GOP has, it's not doing well at all over the last several years. And it's getting worse and worse. But this is this critical point that we're at. So as far as the rest of today, with the moon here, we do have the square to Mercury. So I think a lot of us are talking more deeply. Those of us, that we trust are, relationships where we're, heart to heart, or maybe not, and we're just saying, well, hey, you know what? It's my body and it's my choice, and the hell with you. It could be that, right? Because, we're trying to, with Scorpio, we're trying to stay out of crisis mode. But there's nobody better to handle crisis than a Scorpio, actually. So, yeah. And the moon squaring brings in, it's a tension with the square, but it also can bring in strength when you work through it, when you get through the other side, and that's exactly where it's headed. In an approaching exact square there. Okay, so let's see what else. Saturn trine Mars is there. I think it's all week. Yeah, it is. So Saturn trine Mars, we can count on that. That energy and consciousness holding space. And again, remember Saturn's the stronger, slower moving planet, holding space for that breakthrough for humanity, new laws for humanity, new laws to help us think outside the box, something new and original that can come through and actually be put into solid form that we can work from, that we can build upon. And we do have the moon is in this sextile over here to Jupiter, and also connecting with Pluto because it's retrograded back far enough. So sextiles are opportunities. So there's an opportunity to connect into your source energy, your higher self. I mean, the opportunity is there every moment, every nanosecond of every day. But there's some extra with the moon coming in here. There's some extra feel for it. So probably your intuition will be feng shuiing? No, your intuition will be functioning at a higher level with the moon conjunct Pluto, because Pluto can be very psychic as well. And in Capricorn, it's like, direct knowing where you just feel it in your bones and you know which direction to go. But there's lots of inspiration and support from the spiritual realms here with Jupiter and Neptune in Pisces. So that's wonderful. And and then with that in conjunct quincunx coming down to Mars again, I really feel like family communications. You know what I mean? It's like Grandpa might have been set in his ways, but after talking to his granddaughter, his heart is open, and it's like, okay, hon, I'll do it for you because you're absolutely right. I'll vote this way for you because, or maybe it's the dad or the uncle, or I'm thinking that there's some girl power going on. And some young adult power, a lot of young adult power, which is wonderful. Okay, so Tuesday, the moon has moved clear out of Capricorn and is now moving towards Saturn. So it still brings in the Capricorny energy because Saturn rules Capricorn. So now with the moon in Aquarius, the moon is connecting to something original, something new. There's more tolerance, I think, going on, hopefully. But it's also working towards this square to the nodes. And you can see I've drawn in that line for all the charts for the week because it's still an orb. It's just that my program dropped it off because it goes with a really strict 5-degree orb when it comes to squares. 5 at the tight end, I guess. So anyway, and we're talking just minutes, but it's there. Just like the square between Saturn and Uranus is there, and that's that backdrop where it's like, okay, we need new laws. Are we going to be a rebel or are we going to be a wizard? What are we going to do? We need gun control. Are we safe? No, I don't think so, right? Some new laws were put into effect, but I don't think until after, we have a good start. We have a good start. Joe Biden got us going in the right direction, but we need so much more. Our kids need to be safe in school. And like I was saying last week, with the new COVID, there's some COVID outbreaks, and And there, it kind of pisses me off that they talk about not enough people have gotten the new variant. Well, you know what? I keep trying to get it near me and it's gone, right? Unless I drive 50 miles, I can't get mine until I wait for it to come back. So I'm thinking to call them and see if I can be put on a list or something, which who knows if you can, because I'm not camping out at the pharmacy, right? So bottom line, we got to protect the little ones. So that's why I have been saying, I'm so adamant about everyone masking up still, because now we have all these little ones that are having trouble, major problems. So that's because of Jupiter expanding COVID. COVID's right here in this Neptune Pisces environment of something wet that spreads to mass, out to the masses. Remember, Neptune rules the masses. We don't need our little ones being sick. So that's, that's on the table, and that's why we have that tension field with the square, and Saturn's up here in a T-square, but now with the moon involved, I'm thinking that a lot of parents are going to really be, I'm going to use some Aquarius keywords now, connecting the dots, having a deeper understanding, and then they're thinking in terms of, with the Taurus and Scorpio polarity, they're thinking in terms of safety and security, and the heck with just having fun and let's just go outside and do all kinds of stuff with a bunch of other people that aren't masked up, or let's get on the plane and what if the mask slips off, and all of these different things. We really need to think safety first. But with Uranus in Taurus there, I'm still so open and holding space for all these new inventions that are creating much more safety. So yeah. Now, did I talk about Chiron? I don't think I did. And this is a backdrop for, I think I started and then I got distracted, because this is a backdrop all week. This Chiron in the quincunx up here to the south node now is bringing in, because Venus is moving this way, right? Because it's a 2-degree orb. So Venus is conjunct the south node. So Venus joined in exact degree, or not exact, but 2 degrees to the south node. It's like healing. We're healing as women. We're healing our divine feminine. We're healing, not that our divine feminine ever needs healing, but we're healing the feminine within us so that we're thinking more inclusively. And that's that tension field up here to Aquarius. And that's why I was saying, we're in that masking up, we're thinking about, okay, what about, because survival, right? With both Taurus and Aries, we're talking survival. I mean, Aries, like I keep saying, Aries is, I'm here. And then Taurus is like, oh, I have a body, right? But being present with your I'm here reminds you that you matter, and you do have a body. You have matter that you have to care for. And so there's more bravery, more courage that comes out to assert your individual self, and it helps to move us forward. But we also have this wonderful opportunity all week to heal the past and become much more powerfully present within our own bodies. And I say that because with Venus rules Taurus. So Venus is all about the body. It's all about, remember, like the mom energy being over here, but she's very passionate and she'll fight in Scorpio. In Taurus, she might run. She'll fight in Scorpio. But there could be some fight, flight, freeze dynamics sometimes, because that's the way trauma is. You never know how you're going to respond until you go through it. And then afterwards, you're like, oh, right? So when you're healing trauma in your body, there's nausea that comes up. That's normal. There's depression that comes up. That's normal. whatever pain you're having to process, it's probably from the past. Whatever comes up in dream time, you're probably clearing something from the past. So, yeah, just to remember that. And it's only the first here, but we're moving it, because if you see, I hope one of my hopes, one of my major hopes with all of these readings is that you start looking at where the planets are moving. So everything goes counterclockwise here, because it's the mirror image of us being human on the earth. Except the nodes, they go backwards. Right? They go clockwise this way. So that's happening all the time, but that is because of their relationship to the moon. It's the nodal axis of the moon. But all the planets have their own nodes as well, too. But that's another whole ridiculously... so that's not complicated, but it's just like it would take way too much time to go into all those details. But anyway, the important piece to remember here is that even though it's November 1st, you can see that the important thing to look at here is that Venus is at 11 degrees Scorpio, and Uranus is at 17. And we know Venus is going to go this way. And we know that Uranus is retrograde, so it's going back. So it's moving this way, and Venus is moving this way. So if we look at this, like polarity thing going on here, they're moving closer together, right? So by, I think Thursday or so, I think it's around the 4th or the 5th, we'll see when we get there, we're going to have an exact Venus opposing Uranus. And when that happens, I think it's really, really possible that you can meet someone new, that you could have some surprise, in a relationship that was really, because Uranus brings in unexpected occurrences. Now, it could be financial support because we're dealing Scorpio. There could be like something that comes through, a gift or a loan, or win that lotto ticket, right? It could be something like that, or you could be influenced in a way to by a close friend, partner, or coworker to make some change in your life. I tend to go with that old rule, one of those old spiritual rules where I don't really believe a lot in coinkydinks, and coincidence, but the synchronicities are like, wow. So for me, if I hear somebody say the same thing 3 times in a row, but I know it's true and it's because it's coming from spiritual law and it's not a lie, I really, really listen. And that to me is, a form of guidance coming out, like divine intervention. Like somebody says, you hear it, maybe you see it pop up on your device when you're reading, or something with the news, or you're watching a spiritual channel or something on YouTube and somebody says something, and then you go to another one and they say the same thing, and it triggers, because we all have a place inside of us that knows when people are telling the truth, or speaking truth about something, and then you go, oh, yeah, I knew that. That's right. And it's so simple. So there could be things like that happening all week long with this polarity going on here. Like depth, truth, and aha, waking up. And so, look for those moments, because I would expect them. Now, on the challenging side of this opposition, well, oppositions can't always have the possibility of a breakthrough, and especially with Uranus, because it is our breakthrough planet. Like I said, it's the stronger one involved in this mix here. And we're headed towards the future that way, breaking free. And the challenge, though, with that, because just remember, it's a mirror, there's always the mirroring effect going on. The challenge could just be that maybe another person is shocking. It's shocking that they've done it again. And it's a betrayal, because it's a betrayal of, the relationship in some way. Or you've got a drama king or queen in your life, you've had in your life for quite some time, and you've had it. This is enough because it causes stress. It could also be because of the sesquisquare here, 2 sesquisquares over here to Mars. And Mars, remember, squaring Neptune. And there's sesquisquare up to the moon as well. This is stubborn. All these little sesquisquares, it's like that. It's like if you're an architect and you're drawing, like square footage. It's that sign right here. It's not just a regular square, which is, our 90 degrees. This is a square and a half. So, bottom line, what that brings in is some, stubborn energy, and somebody's going to be digging their heels in and wanting to, somebody's going to want to have it all, and somebody else is going to want to be safe and stable. And those energies are not probably going to come together. They're not going to merge in a healthy, equal way. Now, a good thing that could come through this is that there could be a lot of women that are going from their guts and going from their self-preservation. And again, this is why I'm feeling like it's going to be the younger women and all the younger people that are influencing the older people that have been kind of stodgy and stuck. And we're all deciding to vote for personal rights. Because it's not just reproductive rights are everything, because without them we're like animals, we're livestock. If we can't buy birth control, if we can't get those products, we're livestock. We don't have control over our lives. But if it's coming from a different end of just health rights, health care, we're talking HIPAA laws. So there's more awareness. This lead up here is leading up to the election, to November 8th. And look, it couldn't be more perfect, to where the moon comes through and illuminates exactly what we need to know. We were in Sag last week, and then it's like Capricorn, and now we're in Aquarius. It's going to be Pisces. I think at some point we are going to be just, okay, I voted, now I have to surrender, and we're holding and waiting in faith. By the end of the week, the moon will be in Aries, and it's like, okay, maybe there's some real movement forward there. But that, we won't be into the full moon lunar eclipse until the 8th, and this reading is only going to the 5th, but it's still influencing. It's sitting here, and we are in it. So, okay, and then with the trine to Mars, Saturn trine Mars, again, we're wanting stability. There's an open flow of communication to get that stability, but we're having to rectify the atrocities of the past, because we're not going back 50 years and more and more and more. Back further and further, because, or is it farther and farther? I know farther's distance, but I guess it's both in this situation. So, okay, yeah, because, once you've been free, it's really hard to go back. Oh, my goodness. Can you imagine going back in time when women couldn't vote? That's the other thing. I don't think the Equal Rights Amendment was ever ratified. Oh, my God. So many things need to be changed. Roe v. Wade needs to be taken back and codified. Okay, so Wednesday, the moon is on the other side of Saturn, and like I said, it's heating up, and so in this later, very, very ripe degree of Aquarius, again, that's all about probably some original, unique ideas are coming through, and a lot more tolerance, because I think more information is coming through than ever before. People are sharing their stories. I mean, I heard this morning on the news and we knew that there were two women that Herschel Walker paid for abortions, and if there's two, there's probably 12 or 20. With him, 200, who knows? But a second one came out, and she has Gloria Allred on her side, and she has the documents, right? So there you are. Now we have two women exposing that lie. Because it's okay for him to pay for abortions. That's fine. It's okay for him to be okay with abortions and actually help out the woman. But it's not okay for him to run on a ticket on a platform acting as if he's against abortion, because he's obviously not. Because the second one, she's talking about him sitting outside and waiting in his car for hours and hours for her to have her abortion and then come out. So yeah. Okay, so let's see, what else? So the moon is, you can see this little semi-square here. This is going to be the need for some action, because that's what semi-squares, they bring out, like the need to take action in order to relieve that tension. And so this little tension field here, I do think it is going to be, because remember, the moon is all about women and connecting the dots, and then it's about fighting for your own personal rights with Chiron that's the gift of Chiron in Aries, is to fight for your own personal space and your own personal rights. And then with Jupiter in the semi-square here to the south node, or I'm sorry, north node, there's an expansion into being more compassionate around what other people want, and moving towards thinking in terms of safety, right? Because again, you can't, if you're any person that is thinking of ever having a family, you want to be able to have a safe delivery of your baby. You don't want to, or even if you're not having the baby yourself and someone else is. I mean, we can't go back to those dark ages where women died in childbirth all the time, or women died or couldn't come to full term with their baby because there was that lack of health care. We cannot do that. So, yeah. So again, I'll just reiterate, we've got, that upset, unbalanced energy at the worst, and then big breakthroughs and digging our heels in and going towards what we want at the best, because look how close Venus is coming to the south node there. Look at that. It's like, we're not going backwards. We can communicate. We have the power of the sun in Scorpio that digs its heels in and says, no. I shine the light here. I'm in my leadership. I'm in my authority. I have my consciousness. This is my life force. Right? And conjunct Venus, it's all about the mom. It's all about what I value. It's all about my relationships that I value. Are you with me or not? There's some make or break relationships in this dynamic here. And Mercury's, talking and going deeper and deeper, and they're all cooking up to be together by November 8th. I mean, we're going to have the sun, November 8th, we'll have the sun exactly opposite Uranus, because Uranus will have retrograded. Well, actually, hold on, I have that chart over here. So here's, just to reiterate again, sorry, I already highlighted things in. Think of putting Venus over here and Pluto here. Notice how the south node's here at 13, because these planets that were here, right, 6, 10, 12 degrees, 13 degrees there, are now on the other side. They went past the south node, and all of these planets are like scooping up all that past energy of hell no, kind of energy with women. Just think in those terms. Women's reproductive rights are really on the line, and it's not just women, it's everything. It's Social Security, it's Medicare, it's everything. This is a huge election. And then by the full moon lunar eclipse, November 8th, and this is early in the morning, but we probably will be having some recounts. I really expect that because Uranus is over here. But notice how the sun is 16 degrees, and then we have, so full moon is always when the moon's exactly opposite, and so 16 degrees, 0 minutes, exactly right there. But the important thing is noticing how Mercury is 1 degree. Venus is, it's a little more than 4 degrees, but that's still, a conjunction. It's still, with conjunctions, the culmination, the combination of the energies are combined, or all of the energy and consciousness of the planets are combined together, but they're much more potent. So Venus is much more potent because she has the power of the sun. And Mercury is more potent because there's the power of the sun. So Mercury's messages, Venus's women and values and family and money, right? And then the moon's over here holding space for, what do you really want? What do you really want? So, yeah. It's big. Okay. So let's see. I think I've spoken about that enough. I've probably exhausted anything I can say about the eclipse, except for just to remind you that when you're looking at your own chart, well, here, I'll show you real quick here. With the full moon lunar eclipse, you only go with a 2-degree orb, okay? So anything, let's say 14 degrees Scorpio to 18 degrees in that frame there. You go with a tight orb, maybe 3, like 2, most astrologers will go 0 to 2.5 degrees. And wherever that, if that is on one of your personal planets or any of your planets, or hot points, like the ascendant, IC, the descendant, or the midheaven, those, they are activating points in your charts. And I went over this a lot in the other video, so I probably shouldn't, you can just go back into that. There's a playlist, there's an astrology playlist, and the weekly astrology playlist as well. Maybe I'll make one on eclipses, but I don't know, they're so time sensitive. But anyway, the cool thing you can do is, in your own chart, is look back to 18.5 years ago and see how things were for you then. And it's going to activate some house polarities in your chart. And that's the important piece there. Now, when it comes to, and you only go with those conjunctions and oppositions when it comes to eclipses, those are the rules. The only time you go outside to and look at a square is, now we are all going through Saturn squaring the nodes, but I'm not, well, we can read it, I guess, on a collective consciousness level. But when it comes to your personal chart, you would only do a square, like let's say you have, let's say the sun, this is your sun or your moon up here where Saturn is, and then you have that square, right? Or it's over here in Virgo, or Leo, I should say. So it has to be the sun or the moon squaring the eclipse for it to count in your, natal chart as a square. Otherwise, you're only looking at conjunctions with that 2-degree orb on either side and oppositions with that 2-degree orb on either side. Okay, them are the rules. Okay, so Wednesday, did I cover Wednesday completely? I think I did. Yeah, we're breaking free, and we are definitely moving towards that new paradigm that we have to shift inside of ourselves to shift it on the outside. But I think we're all headed there. Okay, so Thursday, November 3rd, the moon has already, early in the morning, 6 a.m. Pacific, has already moved into Pisces. So now we have, so all the other, aspects I've been talking about for the whole week are still there, right? But the moon here now has 4 trines. That moon is trining early in the morning all of these planets here. So more power to the women, more power to thinking compassionately. Remember, Pisces is inclusive. It includes everything, and it's the sign of just the potential that could exist. It rules everything that has to do with spirituality, everything that has to do with devotion and art and music, and just think, Pisces is ruled by Neptune. So movies, the media, music, anything that gets you to a higher state. But then again, we have to be careful because there could be a connection here, and we do have this sextile going on to the north node. So the moon is in a really powerful place this morning to heal the past and include everyone and move forward and break through in a brand new way. And it's an approaching, see how this is at 10 degrees. It's not even an exact sextile yet, but it will start moving in towards the day. And with this triple quincunx here from Chiron, now Chiron is the major, it's taken the focus of Venus, the south node, and the sun. So Venus being on the other side of the south node, she's cooked up a lot of energy, and the sun is still, this is like mom and dad, and then the past, right? And Mercury's still there talking and helping us to understand exactly what we want to, we got to go deep and dig in to figure out what we want, and then we have to hold strong and not let go until we get it. And the moon is there, saying, okay, we're together in this. We're definitely together in this, and we want this new, we want all opportunities, right? We don't want limitation. Pisces does not like limitation. Aquarius is like hell no when it comes to limitation. So that's wonderful for today. Okay, so that's Thursday. Friday, you can see the moon is now on the other side of Neptune, and it's sandwiched in between Jupiter. So Jupiter's expanding all of that inclusive dreaminess and compassion and sensitivity and spirituality and empathy. And then Neptune's holding space, for all of us to wake up and be on our spiritual path. And, and the double sextile is still there up to Pluto, where it can be done in such a powerful way, as long as we're willing to make those adjustments to always thinking and going in that direction. And again, I think only having the news on just a little bit to catch up here and there, or maybe it's more of an internal space, because there's a lot. With Jupiter and the moon, there's a lot. A lot of what? A lot of everything. Right? This could be one of those days where there's just a lot. And that's especially true because we do have the sun, conjunct Mercury here. Mercury brings in the messages. Mercury's all about the news. And this is all week. There's a lot of, quick thinking, and communication is good usually. And you can get a lot of clarity, about which direction you want to go in, and clarity more towards your life purpose. But with the 3 squares here, it's squaring Mars. All of this energy here, the mass consciousness, the inclusiveness, the compassion, and the healing is squaring Mars. This feels to me like a little bit of a battle between male and female energy here. Yeah. And you can see Jupiter still has that semi-square to the North Node. So again, we can only heal to the degree that we are aligned with spiritual principles, with cosmic laws of love, and being in that place is that's that little tension field there that we're all headed towards. And Jupiter's like, come on, I scooched back into Pisces to connect up again and help you, help you get on your path. And it's so Jupiter retrograded. It started in the end of July, and it won't go direct until right before Thanksgiving. But it's only going to go back 1 degree. It's only going to go back to 28 degrees. But it won't get out of the retro shade, we could say, until Valentine's Day next year. So this is good, really, really, really good time, because remember, the moon's going to keep moving forward, but it's Neptune and Jupiter we're looking at, so that it expands things for all forms of art and intuitive arts of all types too. They don't have to be physical, where we are actually making something. It can be our own, just an intuition that functions in an artistic way within us, because we all have that. So what else with the moon? Well, with the sextile up to Pluto, there's much more power within that ability to be in your own authority and to work hard. Devotion and working hard devoted to working on something that really matters to you. And especially true with that trine connecting to Mars here, that flow connecting from Saturn to Mars. I just see a lot of artistic creative self-expression coming through here. Yeah. And then the adjustment coming from Chiron up in, lots of healing the past, coming into your own more boldly, more bravely than ever before. So let's see, anything else? Yeah, so just expect that during the day, it's going to become much more dreamy. Be careful if you're trying out, if anyone has, if you're trying out a new form of medication or pain management or something like that, because Neptune in Pisces increases our sensitivity, and Jupiter is there bringing, more. Again, I feel like there's that need to protect the children with the moon in the middle there because of, COVID and other respiratory ailments, or just colds and flu and things like that. Like, take care of our little ones. And the elderly too, right? Because they catch everything. I think our immune systems don't function as well as they did. We don't get over things as quickly as the little ones, that's for sure. But be careful with overdoing drugs or alcohol. You will be more sensitive. The tolerance levels will be changed with this energy here. So be careful. Other than that, we have dryness here with Capricorn. We have, Aquarius isn't a water sign, it's an air sign, but then we've got a lot of wet energy here. We have air and water, and then a lot of the earth here. We don't have any fire except for Chiron going on right now. So I wouldn't say it's too hot and fiery, too hot and dry, but more wet. I'm feeling the elements of wet, and then things could blow up because of Chiron there. And again, Taurus, and we don't have anything in Virgo, but just remember Taurus and Virgo and Capricorn, Pluto's in Capricorn. They are our earth signs, and those are the elements that rule the body, which is, of course, our health. So again, back to the self-care. Okay, so Saturday, you can see the moon has definitely crossed completely past and is out of Pisces, crossed over Jupiter, and it's now at 7 degrees Aries early this morning. It's moving towards the conjunction with Chiron. So throughout the day, it's building up the energy to do our healing work, to be more courageous, to put ourselves out there, to try do our best to create win-win situations. And that's, that bit of adjustment. Now the moon's going to be, I haven't drawn, this is the last chart. I haven't ran another chart, but you can see that the moon will be sneaking up this way. And see how we have 3 of the quincunxes. There actually will be 4 by the end of the day, up to all of these planets. This is incredible. Well, Venus is out of the mix, but it's the south node, the sun, and Mercury. Look how the south node is exactly conjunct the sun. So remember, when the sun comes through, it shines light. It's like, you have a flashlight and you turn it on, or you've got a spotlight on something. The spotlight is on Mercury and the way we think and communicate. And then what about the past? What's happened in the past? We're definitely gun shy, right? We definitely are not trusting these dirty politicians that have been trying to cold-heartedly control whatever they wanted. And that's the adjustment that's what we're talking about. That's the information that's coming out, and we're not trusting it anymore. We're not trusting the liars anymore, right? Because remember, Mars is still square Neptune, and Jupiter's in there blowing it up. But Jupiter helps us get to the truth, too. And I love all this connection to the South Node in Scorpio in the past, because it helps us remember. I remember what that guy said. I remember how he voted. I remember how these, and you can go to what is it, Ballotpedia, and there's opensecrets.org. We can always see how people voted or didn't show up to vote at all. When it comes to our senators and reps from the House, we can see how Congress, any congressperson, senator or representative, how they voted or didn't. Which is just, a dereliction of duty, right? So let's see, what else? The sun is moving this way, which is going to bring more, by the time we get to the full moon lunar eclipse, that the sun is really going to be right on the opposite side of Uranus. Yeah. But this sun conjunct Mercury is really, this helps bring in some clarity, and we get to go deep. We get to research with the Scorpio energy. We get to learn new things. We get to make we get to negotiate, make new deals. Mercury's good for travel too, although we have to be careful because of the inconjunct here to Chiron, and I really feel like this is all COVID. I feel like this is another round of COVID. And so be careful, right? Yeah. Let's see, anything else with the moon? No, actually. The only thing is it's going to be this aspect until, we get to next week, and I'll be, you'll have that by Thursday or Friday, depending on if you're one of my family members at the family level members. For $10 a month, you get these without any ads, and you get them a day early. But still within, a couple days before the transits happen. So you can see where it's moving. So by next week, the moon will be right tightly there onto Chiron. Astrology always just blows me away. You can see the divine design, the divine order in the opportunities that are always there way ahead of time. Way ahead of time. Like this opportunity for women, how we started back here with the moon. Like what, the very first chart? Let's see. Yeah, with Mars retrograde. Well, it was last week actually, where the moon was way back here when we had the new moon solar eclipse, the partial solar eclipse. But then the moon, so getting through Sag and getting through the truth, and then getting into doing the hard work of like, yeah, okay, I'm voting, no matter how hard it is and how much time I have to stand in line, I'm voting. And even if these, crazy guys are oath keepers and all these other crazy guys are parked on, at the polling place in front of, in their trucks and with big old gator masks on and trying to intimidate. Well, in America, now you can't take cameras, you can't take pictures or even selfies inside the polling stations, but on the outside, if you see anyone intimidating anyone or yourself at a polling place, you can absolutely take a picture and send it to the FBI. And there's a link with the numbers and how to do that in my, or it's not a link, it's actually it was a meme that I found on Facebook that gives like what to do and how to do it. But I would always recommend, checking your state and your county and seeing what's legal there. But basically, it's illegal for them to intimidate, right? That goes against the Voting Rights Act of 1965 that John Lewis fought so hard. I mean, even crippled himself to get across that bridge in Selma so that we have what we have now. May he rest in peace forever. I'm sure he is, because, that's the thing. And then I'll just say this and leave you with it, because I don't know what else to say anyway. Fight for what you want. Dig your heels in and don't give up. And then the big breakthrough is to be in your own authority. You have your own rules inside, but then of course we have our man-made law. But none of us are really going to get to where we want if we don't all get there eventually. But you have to hold space. It's like you can't let somebody abuse you just because you want to include everyone. It's all love and light. No, not if they're abusing you. It's because if you let somebody abuse you, you are actually abusing them, because you're teaching them that they can get away with hurting someone else. That's why we have laws. And the last thing I'll say, and then I'll close this up, is, I've got this poster, but I can't go get it now. It's big and heavy and it's bolted on, not bolted, but it's, kind of glued onto not glued. It's on my wall in my living room, but it's a poster. It's an old Led Zeppelin poster that has, it has the Hermit, this one has the Hermit. And the last phrase in my favorite song, Stairway to Heaven. And it's about as we wind on down the road, shadows taller than our soul, things like that whole lyric. And then at the end, it's where all is one and one are all, and then to be a rock and not to roll. So here's what I want to just drive home, is that we're all going to die someday, right? It's where's that death card again? But we're all going to die someday. So you might as well go down taking a stand for what you believe in, because otherwise you're in apathy. This would be the downside of Aquarius. You're in apathy and disconnected, or the downside in Pisces energy would be to just be so numbed out and desensitized that you're wasting your life. Now, I'm not saying to go out and be violent in any way, not at all. I mean, those days are over. I mean, if you want to do that, sign up to be in the military. But when it comes to self-preservation and fighting for yourself and vote. It's about vote, exercising our free will and voting. And so you might as well go down fighting for what you want, because otherwise you're just wasting time. Or you're building the energy to have that kind of strength, right? Yeah. So, okay, I'm going to stop. Thanks, you guys. Take good care. Bye.